Welcome back, everybody, to the Fandalorian Club, Episode 5 of Season 2 for the Clone Wars Season 7. We are going to be covering Gone with a Trace, Episode 5 of this season for the Clone Wars. First time that we get Ahsoka back in the series, and I'm not just the one who's talking about it today. I am joined by our regulars, Brian Adelacino and Jacob Barley, all the way across town. How are you guys doing?
Across the galaxy.
Across the galaxy.
Hello there. How's it going?
Good.
Yes, across the galaxy.
So, just a fun little tidbit, a little mistake. This is our second time recording this episode. We had an audio issue with the first one, and so we're going to be discussing it for a second time round this time. So let's just get in, before we get into our breakdown and spoiler discussion about the episode, just quick initial thoughts about it, reactions, being that it is the first of this new arc, the 4-episode arc they're going to be getting with Ahsoka on Coruscant, it looks like. Brian, when you start us off, man, what was your first reaction, immediate reaction to Gone with the Trace?
It was good. It wasn't the greatest episode by any means, but it's the beginning episode of an arc, and we have not seen Ahsoka in a very long time, at least in the Clone Wars. Mm-hmm. And this isn't going to be the most crazy action-packed episode because it's telling what she did probably within a day or two maybe of her leaving the Jedi Order. I would even say less than a day. To me, it seemed more like hours. But yeah, it wasn't horrible, but I mean, it wasn't the best episode by far, but I'm sure we'll appreciate it more as the arc goes on and we understand why it did what it did. And it had to introduce those two new characters, so.
Jacob?
I enjoyed it. It's an enjoyable Clone Wars episode, and as far as maybe a random episode in the old Clone Wars series when there's 22 episodes and we know there's another season coming, it's an enjoyable episode. But as 1/12 of a final season, I don't know if I enjoy it in that sense. But like we talked about before, the first episode of the season wasn't the greatest, but once they wrapped up the 4-episode arc, then the first episode was a lot better, at least to me. So I think we could have a similar situation here, especially if everything they introduced in this 5th episode, I would say, is tying into the next 3 episodes. If this is a 4-episode arc of Ahsoka in this area of Coruscant, helping these sisters with whatever they got going on in their lives, and it ties into everything well, then I think it could mean more in the future. But as of now, it's just a solid episode, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think I liked it a little bit more than you guys did. I mean, it can be claimed as bias, obviously. Yeah, seeing her back for the first time in this era, because and we talked about it when we recorded this first time, but she has the most interesting Star Wars journey of any character that we've ever seen, because of the way that her story's been told.
Over Anakin?
Over Anakin? I would think so, because it's all based off how her story's been told. Right now, so we met her in the Clone Wars. We had a lot of time with her in the Clone Wars. Then we meet her in Rebels. Okay, Rebels jumps another big gap, and we see her at the end of the original trilogy. Now we're going back to the Clone Wars, and then if all these news reports and speculations are true, we're going to be going back to when she's in Return of the Jedi. And we also heard her in The Rise of Skywalker, and so it's a very interesting way to tell the story of a specific character, because she's very different in all those eras, and seeing her as this young, kind of lost soul in a way in this episode, trying to figure out what she's going to do, who she's going to be. We'll talk about the Force stuff later on as well, and so I liked it because of that sense, because it's very interesting to see it. Look, I was thinking about this after we had recorded that first time. Have we ever seen a Jedi leave the Jedi Order? Have we ever seen that outside of her?
Seen it visually?
Yeah.
I would not say seen it visually. It has happened. I mean...
Because every portrayal of a Jedi leaving the Order has been either a Jedi turning to the dark side or dying, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah.
On screen,
Yeah,
yes.
definitely on screen. I'm trying to think of anyone just leaving.
I think she's the only one. I think she's the...
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you consider novels and stuff, I don't know. Remember that guy from Master and Apprentice? I think he was sent away though.
Oh,
but
Seth
still,
Diaz?
he
guy
died as a
who was guarding the princess and everything in Master and Apprentice. But I think if we were just sticking to on screen through animation and live action, I think she's the only one who chose to leave, basically.
And that's going to be very interesting, because what does that story look like? We know that she finds her way back eventually, but what does she do? Does she use... Like, this is almost a sense of the question that we were asking when Obi-Wan and Yoda backed off after Episode 3. Did they use their powers? Did they just become non-Force users? It's almost going to be answered in a way through Ahsoka in these couple episodes, because if people know that she's a Jedi, that's a whole different story. And she kind of has to become this whole different person. Like, I'm not surprised, or I am surprised that she didn't give herself a different name in case her name does get floated around out there. When she said Ahsoka...
That's a good point.
I was kind of a little surprised when she just said her name was Ahsoka. Like, I was expecting her to kind of give herself like an alias, because she does that in her novel, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like, she has a different name.
That was after Order 66.
Well, yes, but at the same time, it's like she's leaving behind the Jedi Order, and...
I see what you're saying, and she doesn't want those girls to know that she's a Jedi. And I think what it is, though, is she's still young, and I don't think she's matured enough to realize that. Maybe by the time in the novel, and definitely in Rebels, she's very mature at those points.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's true.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the sisters and their part with this episode. Trace is the one name, and the second name, I'm mistaken which her name is. I'm always forgetting her name.
It's something Aura.
Okay, we'll just stick with that. So the two sisters...
It's not easy to remember.
No, not at all. Not at all. Jacob, I'm going to start with you first, man. What did you think of their addition, and do you expect them to play a little bit of a bigger part in Ahsoka's journey over the next couple episodes?
So it's tough for me, because I'm being very picky when it comes to these 12 episodes.
Well, they're our last.
So yeah, exactly. So I'm like, every character better be great, they better bring it, but that's not fair. I don't mind these characters, and I want to see where they go. For me, they felt a little too non-Star Wars, though.
Huh. Okay.
A little bit.
Non-Star
Wars? They felt like characters who would exist in a Fast and the Furious movie, to be honest. Like a modern-day movie.
Or Star Wars Resistance?
That's how they felt to me. Yeah, actually, that's a great point. That they do feel like they would be in Star Wars Resistance. That is a great point. So they didn't, but the thing is, they have to try new things, right? I don't know if these characters were originated from when they first had these episodes planned, or if they made them for this new story arc. But I really want to see where they go. I definitely like Trace more than her sister. Her sister's a little bit over the top with I'm this crazy criminal type vibe, but I think Trace, there's a little more something to Trace. She's the one who does feel bad selling the robots in the end, and who doesn't want to but understands that they need to in order to survive. So I do like that, and I do think Ahsoka's definitely closer with her, and if they stay in that next 3 episodes, I do think it's going to be Ahsoka and Trace going on missions together. So they're not bad, but I want to see where they go.
Brian?
Sister's name is Rafa.
Rafa, okay.
I agree. I mean, they're just kind of your normal, to me, non-Force characters. Like, she's just a mechanic. She clearly... this is Trace. clearly wants off Coruscant. She's making a ship. She has plans to get off of the planet, which seems like a lot of past Star Wars characters. They have dreams of getting off the planet. And then the sister, I didn't mind the sister as much because I think there's going to be more to her. I think she's going to cause some sort of trouble because they made it a very big point, in my opinion, to show that she kind of just goes and does what she wants and doesn't really care if people get in trouble. She's kind of out for herself. So I could see that causing Ahsoka probably more trouble down the line, which I think that's what this is going to be. I personally hope and think that they go further deeper into Coruscant's underworld, and maybe the sister is what leads him down there. She needs help or something. But then again, that's kind of almost what this episode was. So I wouldn't be surprised if the sister Rafa causes more trouble for them. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if that character causes some type of trouble and she ends up dying, and Trace and Ahsoka take off on planet by then.
She kind of feels like our entrance into what was 1313.
Yeah.
Because it almost feels like this is kind of like the way that they can introduce 1313 to us without actually never giving it to us, because it had been in development for so long and so through so many different things, video games and TV shows and stuff. And so I wouldn't be surprised that if over the next at least 2 episodes, we do go deeper and we kind of touch like the floor of Coruscant, because it's something that we all want to see. And I know that probably Jacob wants to see it as well, because it is his favorite planet in Star Wars as well.
Yeah. I was super excited to see more of Coruscant, because for a second I forgot that she was still on Coruscant. The opening, I don't think they show like a little thing that says Coruscant at the beginning of the episode, but she was on Coruscant when she left Anakin in that moment, and we don't know how much time is in between, maybe a couple hours, maybe a couple days, but it makes sense that she's still there. And the beginning of the episode, the opening was awesome.
The speeder bike.
When the bike broke down, and then when she ran on the wall,
awesome.
That was so cool. And for me, Ahsoka's so cool because her action is so unique compared to the other characters. She's very like Black Widow-esque in the way she fights, compared to Anakin and Obi-Wan, who are more just using the Force and their lightsabers. Ahsoka uses her body and her legs and is jumping around a lot. So I really liked seeing that in the beginning of the episode again. But also just seeing Coruscant, seeing a different side of Coruscant, because the top of Coruscant is very bright and colorful. There's sunlight. There's all the ships are fancy. But when you see Ahsoka flying through there, it totally feels different. So that was really cool to see. And I do want to see more of it, because it's very different vibe. Even then, when what's it called? Attack of the Clones, when Anakin and Obi-Wan go to that bar, how far is that? Is that lower than this, or is that higher than this? I don't even know.
I would probably guess.
I forgot about it. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, I would probably guess that that's the floor of the top, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, yeah. Which, like, the lower you get, the more scummy it gets.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you said, this would be a perfect opportunity for them to put that in canon without it just being thrown into a book or thrown into a comic. We get to see it, know it exists by viewing it, and then after that we could end up getting, I don't know, some underworld comic or whatever. So, for that aspect, I appreciate it, because we've been hearing about 1313 and the underworld of Coruscant for ever.
Well, I also think that it's a very, it's, I guess, a very good way to tell the story of Ahsoka, because I would imagine a lot of the people down there, kind of like, I believe Trace said it, they dislike the Jedi. That they don't like what happened with the Jedi, with the Republic, and all that. And her being a part of that for so long is it would feel like a good story because it's so many obstacles for her to go through as far as keeping herself a secret and trying to find herself in this world where she realizes that people hate the Jedi and that what they stood for and what they did, and it feels like a very complex way to tell the story, which is what I want to see because it means a lot going forward, and it wouldn't be those filler episodes, and it would add depth to the character that we know going forward with her, and maybe lead into certain things, how she comes back or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, I think it'd be a very cool way to tell the story because it would allow her to figure out how to operate outside of being a Jedi and in the Republic, and with normal people who don't understand or know that side, just of the world, I guess, or the galaxy.
Yeah. We said this in the last, or I said this on the last one. I at a point forgot that Order 66 hadn't happened because the way she was acting was very much secretive, not letting people know she's a Jedi, and then just slightly at the very end using the Force and only one person saw her. So it's almost kind of like she's like getting a taste of pre-Order 66 where she's learning how to operate without being a Jedi, using the Force, using a lightsaber, stuff like that. So it's almost kind of like it's like a training before what's about to come.
Thoughts, Jacob?
Yeah, well, it makes a lot of sense because that conversation that her and Trace have in the workshop, you see Trace tells, and maybe Ahsoka wasn't going to hide that she was a Jedi until Trace told her how she feels about the Jedi and how the people down there feel about the Jedi and how they think they're a negative thing in the galaxy and a negative thing on Coruscant, and they're just living high up there on the top of, what do they call the top of Coruscant? Isn't there a name for it? I thought there was a name for
I thought
it.
it was just Coruscant and then the underworld had a name.
High side. I'll call it high side.
Yeah. So.
High Coruscant.
Yeah. But yeah, it does make a lot of sense, and I do get Ahsoka novel vibes in a way, the way she's trying to hide who she is, and it's a kind of a little tease for that. And I was thinking, do we in this trailer when they show her fighting Maul, is that on Mandalore or no?
Yeah.
It is? Okay. Because I was going to say, is she going to run into Maul here in these next 3 episodes? And maybe not. Because the thing is, after the last time we saw him in Clone Wars, he was defeated by Palpatine. We know he escaped that. And then when does he go on to create Crimson Dawn or take over Crimson Dawn? Because I was thinking, is he starting that now? And that's when Ahsoka runs into him. But if he's on Mandalore...
That's something we have not talked about.
Yeah, if he's on Mandalore, then he's probably... He could be starting it there, who knows, but it is interesting to see him back on Mandalore because the thing he did with the Darksaber and all that. So, well, we know he has it in Rebels. So, that's interesting.
There's a lot of stuff going on with Maul right now that we don't know about, that they're going to have to wrap up and kind of lead into. The Crimson Dawn stuff, we didn't talk about that at all because... Solo is much closer to Revenge of the Sith than it is A New Hope, and it seemed like when we saw Maul, he had a handle on Crimson Dawn for quite a while, and go ahead.
So whenever after these episodes end, then Maul goes on to do Crimson Dawn basically shortly after sometime.
And in between Solo and Rebels is when he loses Crimson Dawn, and the first time we see him is the Sith Temple. And so there's like a giant chunk of story that we have no idea about. I don't know if they're leaving it open for something in the future or if they're going to try to lead into it here. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of expecting that, one, we get tidbits of Crimson Dawn from Maul. And 2, I think that by the final episode of Season 7, it'll be Ahsoka going directly into how her novel starts, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's like almost like one full story all the way until the end of Rebels, and then they're going to patch that again later on down the road as well, from what it feels like.
You think she's going to be the one that defeats him on Mandalore and sends him out?
Her and Rex and Bo-Katan, because Bo-Katan's going to be the leader at that point. So I think so, personally.
That's kind of dope.
Well, when does he get the dark saber again? That's an interesting question.
Maybe he has it.
Because
oh no,
does he leave with it? Does he leave with it at the end of Clone Wars season 7, or does he go back and get it again after Solo?
It's a good question.
Who knows? Yeah, there's so much story to tell with Maul.
It's amazing.
They can do an animated series, live action, whatever.
It's amazing how Maul went from such a one-off in Phantom Menace
because he was so popular.
I know, but can you imagine, like, he was originally just this one-off, and now he's arguably top 5 best stories in Star Wars just purely off of what he's gone through and what he's done.
And his story isn't done yet.
Yeah, I mean, between probably Ahsoka, Anakin, Obi-Wan, he's probably in that top 5. Maybe Palpatine and him, and the most story.
Maybe that's something we should rank later on. That'd be interesting.
It's wild.
The best story arc, character arc.
I mean, he's gotten.
That's a good one.
At least 2 off the top of my head, comic book arcs directly for him.
Mm-hmm.
He had a whole arc in Clone Wars. He had a whole arc in Rebels. He had, he had a part in one of the movies. It's crazy to see where he went, and I think it's kind of even cooler that Ahsoka is another one of those people, and those two are going to go.
And so Ahsoka's going to beat him.
What's cool about that is they're both alien characters.
It's a good point as well.
They're not human.
True.
Which is what I want from movies. That's what I want from a movie so bad. I want them to be the lead alien in the role. Or an alien in a lead role, is what I should say. Yeah. I want to see that so bad. Okay, so before we get out of here, guys, let's go ahead and talk about what we see coming, I guess. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but maybe what we see happening in the next few episodes and leading into the final arc, the Siege of Mandalore stuff. I'll shoot it back to you first, Brian. What are you expecting to see over the next few episodes?
I don't know. I almost feel like these are just going to kind of delve into that underworld of Coruscant just to almost give it to us, so that way we could finally say we had it. I personally don't really know where they're going to go with it. Obviously, this arc is the story of Ahsoka after she leaves the Jedi Order, but I see maybe like episode 8 being like Rex comes and finds her and takes her to Mandalore, but episode 6 and 7 I'm kind of like, I don't know really what they're going to do. I'm assuming she's just going to run around with those girls in the underworld, or at least Trace. But for me, like, is that, in my mind, is that like enough that people are going to really like you guys said, like, or like Jacob said, like, each one of these are so important because we never thought we were going to get them, and there's only going to be 12, to where is it important enough that 5, 6, and 7 lead to 8, where 8 probably takes off to Mandalore? So I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't know. I have a feeling it's gonna be the sister Rafa is gonna cause some trouble. They're gonna have to fix it, and then by the very end, she's being taken up by Rex or whoever to help in the Siege of Mandalore.
Yeah, I agree. I think that episode 7?
6?
We just had 5, 6, and 7, and then 8.
Okay, so episode 8 is what I'm trying to get at. Is going to be more connected to episode 9 than it was with episode 4 and 5. That's what I was getting at. Because episode 4 and 5, it's like it's just like two separate books or two separate movies, like just completely different from each other. But I do think that, like you had said, either Rex coming to grab her, or she's reaching out to them because she found something happening and she's like, I gotta tell them, or maybe Anakin. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I feel like episode 8 is gonna be like wrapping up this arc with Trace and Rafa and everything, and then kind of just like a mold into the Siege of Mandalore stuff, and she goes off, and it's almost in a way like we get 8 straight episodes of connectivity happening, and it's kind of like almost like one big arc with her and all these other characters as well. Personally, that's what I think.
I agree.
Jacob?
Yeah, I agree too. I think episode 8 will see that hologram conversation between Ahsoka and Anakin. Possibly. Maybe that's in episode 9, but I could see that in episode 8. And I do think, looking at the first 4 episodes, it really did focus on the clones and the Bad Batch throughout the whole time. And I think this is going to focus on Ahsoka, Trace, and her sister for the next at least 2 episodes. And maybe those whatever that guy was planning to do with those droids, maybe they find out it was something really bad. And then Ahsoka's like, all right, I got to go take care of this. And then Trace goes with her to make up for it, you know? So it could be something like that, or maybe not. But either way, it's going to tie into them going on some missions and lead up to the last 4 episodes.
Yeah, actually, I didn't even think about that. Maybe Trace is the one that takes her to Rex.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're setting her up. I mean, the episode title was Gone with the Trace. It had her name in it, so...
I didn't even think about that. I was more concerned with the Gone with.
No, Gone with the Trace. So, I mean, she seems like she's being set up to be a little bit more of an important character going forward with Ahsoka's story. Whether that ends in this arc or the next one, I'm not sure, but it'll be very interesting to see.
She'll probably float into the background of, like, some type of, like, mechanic for the cause or something like that.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. There's definitely some possibilities there. All right, gentlemen, any last thoughts on Gone with the Trace episode 5 before we get out of here?
Excited to see where it goes.
Yeah.
I'm just glad to see Ahsoka back again, as I'm sure you guys are as well.
Pumped. Can't wait to see these next 7 episodes. Only 7 left. Only 7 left of season 7. But that is it, guys. The Fandalorian Club this week covering episode 5, Gone with a Trace of the Clone Wars. A little late than usual, but we're going to be here every Friday and Saturday covering this, depending on when it goes up. More than likely Saturday mornings. And maybe we'll figure out a way to do something for the finale as well down the road. Make sure you guys check us out, not just on YouTube, but Twitter and Instagram, and podcast platforms as well. So Anchor, Apple, Spotify, Google. This show lives on there as well, including all of our main shows. And, if you have some thoughts on the episode or where stuff's going to go, make sure you guys leave some thoughts down in the comments. We'd love to hear from you guys. Maybe we didn't think of something that you're screaming at the screen to talk about. And so go ahead and let us know. So, for Jacob, for Brian, for myself, this is the Fandalorian Club. Thank you guys for joining us. As always, we will see you guys next week, and may the Force be with you.